Hey everyone, it is me, Fashion Coder, and I'm excited to do today's video because we are going to do a code review on the XEN project. And so it is XEN crypto, and yeah, so let's get started. So a little bit of background on me, if you couldn't tell from my name, Fashion Coder, is I have development background. So I've been coding since I was 13, and so that means I've been coding for 11 years, so let me age myself there. But I have really honestly just come to love coding. The first time I was able to code in a class when I was 13, it caught my attention. I thought it was so much fun, and it just sparked a passion in me that I never knew I could have. So in high school, I learned even more how to code and how to build computers and how to network computers, and it was really cool. And then once I went to college, I got a bachelor's degree in computer science. And then during that time, it was actually crazy. I had 4 different internships, not at the same time, actually some of them at the same time, where I coded with different tech companies as an intern. And it set me up for success. And then I became a software developer once I graduated with my bachelor's degree. And I did that for about a year and a half. And it was honestly very interesting being an actual software developer. I realized I didn't know if I actually liked it. I liked coding, but I didn't know if I liked being a developer. And so I actually switched things up. I got a master's degree, so an MBA in IT management. And then for the last 10 months, I've been working as a product owner. So I'm the liaison between a software developer and the business and the customer. So I make things the software tech things make sense to the customer, and then what the customer wants and needs, I make that into a roadmap and make it make sense to the software developers. And so honestly, I really like my job right now, but I still know how to code, which is great. And so I'm doing a code review because I thought this would be fun. I asked on Twitter what projects I should do code reviews for, and I had a lot of people say the XEN project. So I want to show you a little bit of what I've learned. I've been studying this for the last maybe hour and a half, going through their code, figuring out what's going on, and then also looking at their website and seeing what they said it's going to do and seeing if it actually does that. So let's just jump in. So how I found this, let's start there. So if we come here, actually let's go back one. Okay, Jack Levin, he is the person that is the founder of it. And so I got to meet him at PulseCon actually, which was really fun. He's really nice. But he told me a little bit about this project. And so here he is. So I went to his page on Twitter, and then I was like, he probably has a tag somewhere to the project. So then I came here, found its Twitter page, and then I just scrolled down and I found their website right here. So it's zencrypto.io. Oh, and I already had that open. So it brings us here. And then you can go through the page. I'm not really going to go over a ton of this. There's a lot of different things that you can look at. The one thing in the frequently asked questions that I do want to look at is how to mint XEN. Okay, I'm going to read this. XEN tokens can be minted by anyone for free. The only thing you need is an Ethereum wallet like MetaMask and some ETH to pay for the gas fee. First, you need to connect your wallet, indicate the number of days you want to spend on minting your XEN, and then claim your C rank. You need to sign the transaction and pay the gas fee. Then you need to wait for the end of your term, and when this happens, you need to connect the wallet again and mint XEN by signing the transaction and paying the gas fee again. Okay, sweet. So that gives us a basis of what exactly happens. So like I said, come into the website, look around. You can also go to read again, and it expands it and goes more in depth on a whole entire web page. But if we scroll down, this little guy right here, if we click on that, it'll bring us to GitHub. Okay, so here is their code base, so we can go through all of it. Like I said, I did go through it just barely, looking to make sure I could connect all the dots before moving forward. I do want to point out, it looks like the last thing was changed 2 days ago. So there are people still working on this, still developing it. On their website, I did see that launch was going to be end of September, hopefully, but you know, you never know. So that is a potential thing that could happen. Yeah, so let's scroll down. Something that I've said in my past videos, if you are looking at a project, you're going to want to look at the README. But if we just keep scrolling, it pulls up the README right here. Sometimes this will go more in depth of exactly what's going on. Sometimes it'll give you installation, things of how to do that. And then like right here, it says how to run the tests. So all pretty simple things. But if you did want to clone this down and look at the code through your own IDE, you definitely can do that. You just come in here and copy this. And then like to run the tests, you just npm install, which you install the dependencies here. But you can just go through it with me too. Okay, so as we come up, so there's all these different files. I do want to point out a couple of different things. You know, a lot of these just provide information for the other files. So I'm not really going to go through any of these right here. There are test files, and I think it's always really interesting to look at other people's tests because you can see like if something's good, if something's bad. I don't think it's in these specific tests, but there's like a bad function, so it like adds in information that's like wrong, and then the test should fail. Or no, it should be correct actually, just depending on how they wrote it, but it shouldn't be able to get through specific blocks in the code. That's a great thing about testing. Okay, let's go back to the main page. If we go into the GitHub file right here, it shows that you can come in here and then use Yarn. Yarn is a package manager, which just helps with sharing and receiving code from different packages. And so there's that. Something we don't really need to worry about, honestly. So we went through the test. There's also the source. And if we come into here, we can just see that there's a couple different functions, that there's some math going on. Not super important to what we're looking at. And then there are the migrations. There are two different ones, initial migration and then deploy token. Those aren't really things that we need to particularly worry about either. And then, did I go through this one? Yes, I did. I've been through this code a little bit recently, so I can't remember what I've done. Okay, but the most important one we want to go through is contracts. So we will click on that. Okay, so within contracts, there's two different things, folders, there's interfaces and tests. And I just want to show you this because as we go through their main file of code, I am going to point something out that is the interfaces. So if we come into interfaces, it gives us these 4 different files. And we can tell that a file is an interface if they have an I in front of the file name. So the interface of burn redeemable, the interface of burnable token, and so on. So I will show you something in the code later that calls these different ones. And we can just go into one super quick. It's not a lot of code. It's very basic. Okay, so going back to contracts, we also have the test. So the bad burner. So we come in here. And like I said, like it will come in and do this test, grab different amounts and everything and give different information. And then go back to contracts. Okay, now down to the next 3 files. So the Zen crypto.sol, that's Solidity. That's going to be the one that we really actually look into. It has about 400 lines of code, but we're going to look at these super quick. So this one is the math. And when I came in here, I was like, oh, there's a lot of code commented out. So as you can see right here, this is all gray, which means it's commented out. And when something's commented out, the compiler does not read it. It just sees it as a comment. So that's all commented out. These ones aren't. But as I looked at this, they're actually bringing in their own library. And what a library is you are using someone else's code that they've written to do something. So usually you'll bring in libraries like math libraries because it can do addition. It can do like things that are a lot more complicated than addition. So as I looked through this, it just honestly was doing different math functions. So it's okay that it's commented out. And if they add it back in, they'll just use it as their own library for that. So there's the math one. Then if we come down here, we also have the migrations file. And then this just has a couple of different things. Also not particularly important in what we want to look at right now. Okay, so this is going to be the file we'll be in most likely the rest of the time. But we're going to come in here. And like I said, we were going to see the interface and also the math file soon. So if we come in here, we are importing different libraries and interfaces. So, we just saw this iBurn redeemable, an iBurnable token. And we can tell that they're from our code because there's a dot right here. So when it's importing it, it's actually just going into the specific file that we're in or folder that we're in, and then finding that pathway. So it goes into the interfaces folder and then it finds that file. So it's just importing those in, which is cool. It's also doing that to math, but math.sol is a file within our folder. Also, this might not be super important to you, but I just want to explain it just so it kind of makes sense that like those exist in the files that we're looking at. And then these ones, I'm guessing, are just taken from other libraries, which honestly is so normal. It happens all the time. And so yeah, okay, so as we continue on, usually at the top there's all these variables. And what is a variable? Say you had a number and you wanted to assign it a value, that's what a variable is. And so like right here, we have an address that's assigned to a user. And then these are just all of their names. So like term and rank and amplifier and EAA rate. And basically what this is, like this uint 256, all that is it's saying that it's an integer, which means that it's a number. And yeah, so we have all of these instantiations up here. And then as we come down, there's different constants that are throughout. And so these are great examples. Seconds in the day. So it's assigning that value and it's constant throughout the entire program. And like I said, that's for all these different things. So we'll scroll down a little bit more. And then we have a couple more variables right here. And then we also have these user mints, user stakes, and then user burns. And those we'll see later on in this file, but the address is getting assigned to that. So your address that you're using from your wallet gets assigned to that specific variable. Okay, as we scroll down, so we are going to be looking at the private methods. What is a private method? So if you go into code, there are private, public, and then honestly a couple of other types of methods that you can use. And what a method is it's just a block of code that does a specific thing. And so within these private methods, they don't want to duplicate this code over and over and over again. Like, for example, this one right here, the add, let's see. Nope, I don't have that one down. It's this one right here, the calculate mint reward. This one gets called 3 times. And so why rewrite this code? See, this is what? 13 lines of code. Why rewrite that 3 times when you can just call a function? And so it just makes it more efficient and saves the compiler time to read other code. So as we're going through, we can kind of just see they named their functions very reasonable names, so it's kind of easy to see what is going on. But to start out, so this is a function, this is the name of it, so this is their name that they gave it, and then it's private. And so this one increases active stakes, and then it recalculates and saves the new max term. So it comes in here and just adds, so the plus means add 1. It adds to the active minter's number, and then if that number is greater than the term amplifier threshold, then it will do all of this. But if it doesn't, then it won't. And something that I want to mention right here is it doesn't have a return. And so since it doesn't have a return, it means that this is not really being called anywhere because it's not returning a value. So what it does in here is it just sets those values, which is great. Okay, scrolling down. penalty. So there is a penalty within this. And this is just where it's calculated. This one does have a return. And I'm going to mention this probably a lot. But we do have this right here. And what this means is this is a parameter that it expects to get. And so wherever penalty is called within this program, if it's not sent an integer, then it won't continue on. So it has to have that parameter coming in to be able to use it here, or it just won't work. And so because of the code and how it works, it knows that it needs that, and it knows that it has to send it that. And what it returns here is the penalty. Awesome. All right, as we scroll down, so calculate mint reward. Like I was saying earlier, here we have different variables, so it does require all of those to be sent in. And then when it comes into the actual function, which is this part, it comes in and it grabs different values and assigns them. And so as we can see, all of these values right here, all of these variables are being set by different things. And some of them are being set because of the parameters that were sent in. And something that's kind of neat with how code is when you are coding, if your specific parameter isn't being used, it gets booted out. And so kind of cool just how that can be, because it just makes sure that everything's being used. So this is calculate mint reward. Okay, I did do a little bit of charting because I wanted to talk about how these private functions are being called within the public functions. And so we can tell that it's private because it says private right here. And what that means is it's being called within the public code. And so private just means that only the code can see it, no one else can. And it works. So this one specifically calls three different, it's called 3 different times. And then if we come down here to clean up stake, that one is called also 3 times. And this one, what happens is after a stake happens, I was looking through the other code. After a stake happens, it just goes in and cleans everything up. I do want to mention something though. One of the developers put a little comment in here. And so it says, clean up stake storage, get some gas credit, winky face. So comments are fun because you never know what the developer is going to communicate to you. And so there's an example of that. Sometimes you can find some crazy stuff in comments. So like sometimes people put passwords and it's a very interesting time, which, you know, you're not supposed to do that. But I like the winky face and the little joke. Okay, and then for this one, the calculate stake reward, like I said, like it brings in these different parameters here, it uses them down here, and then what happens is if, I actually kind of like this. So this is an if statement right here, and if the timestamp of that specific block, if it's greater than this variable, which is the maturity TS, it will come in and do this math. And then it will return this, okay? But say if the if is not true, if it's false, then all the function does is return 0. So, decently straightforward. And let's see, I don't know if I saw this. Calculate stake reward, that one is called once in another one. And then calculate reward amplifier, so it calculates the reward amplifier. We come in here and it, you know, comes in here, adds the amplifier decrease. So it takes these different variables, calculates them, and then if it is, if the amplifier is less than the decrease, then it'll return this. If not, it'll just return the end. So there's that. And then this, as I was looking through this, I was like, what does EAA stand for? It's Early Adopter Amplifier. Sometimes it's hard to know what people are using to call specific things, but I'm glad that they put that in the comments because I personally really needed it. And this one's also private, so it comes in here and calculates that. And that one's called twice. And then this calculate APY is also called twice throughout. And then on this one's also called twice. So they get called a couple of times as you go through and, are minting or staking or ending a stake or whatever it is. So this one creates it, that calculates the APY. Okay, and then right here, public convenience getters. And so what a getter is, it gets information. And if we scroll down a little bit, we have a couple of these functions. All of these are get. Yeah. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 different ones. And so they can be as simple as, just one line like this within the method, or they can also be maybe a little more meaty like that. But honestly, not too bad. So these ones are pretty straightforward. Get user mint, get user stake, get the current amp, get the current year, and then get current APY. Okay, so we are through the getters, we are through the privates, and now we are finally on to the public methods. Okay, so this top one right here, claim rank, we can just honestly walk through this. So this accepts user rank stake provided all checks pass, including no stake current. Okay, so when we see the word require, what that means is those specific tests, so like the term sec is greater than the min term, as well as these other ones. If these ones don't pass, it's not going to continue on to the code of the function. So the function, this is what it is. So if these ones don't pass, then we don't get here. And if they don't pass, then it will say this comment to the user. And I don't think it'll actually be to the user, but it could be. And so, like this one, term less than the minimum, term more than current max term, and then stake already exists. So requires are important because if it doesn't, like I've had it where I would be testing something and it's like, oh, why won't that hit the code down here? Well, it's like the requires, it needs to pass all of those to be able to get down to it. So it happens. Okay, mint info. So I do want to talk about this a little bit. This makes me so happy. So what this is right here. So mint info is an object. Now, what is an object? An object, I like to think about it as something that's very pretty and it's packaged very nicely. And when you get a package, say you order a couple of things from Amazon, you get this package and you have a couple of different things to take out of the package. Now, that is kind of what an object is they give you a whole thing, and from there, you take that package and you use the things within it. So, our example here, mint info, is our object or a package, and within mint info, it has a user, a term, this maturity TS, rank, amplifier, and then the EAA rate. So every time that we get a mint info object, it means that we are going to most likely be getting all of those, which is exciting because it makes it easier to transfer info, because instead of sending, a whole list of parameters, you just send them your one object and then they get to unwrap it. And when I say they, I mean the method gets to unwrap it and then go in and then grab the different information. So what this is doing right here is it is creating it and then storing the information. So, like we were looking at earlier in the private methods, look, we've seen both these private methods, okay? And what it's doing is to get the amplifier, it's calling that private method to get that information. So instead of having a block of code of 10 lines in this spot right here, we just call the function that does it, and then it will do it for us, and then we store that information right here. So we create them right here, and then we're storing it here. And then right here, it's user mints. And so what happens is this user mints gets sent the mint info, and here then the add stake and adjust max term gets called. So decently straightforward in what it's doing there. And just for the sake of it, I want to see what add stake and adjust max term looks like. So I just copied it, and then if I do Command F, paste it, look, it brings us here and then shows everything that's done here, which is great. Okay, but we want to go back. So that is our claim rank function. As we scroll down, we have claim mint reward. So same thing, we have our requires, and then if it passes those, it comes down into this. And this is where they calculate the reward and mint the tokens. So, I'm sorry, I'm totally geeking out. We're talking about the object, right? So the object's name is mint info, all right? And right down here, we are accessing the different things within our object. So how you do that is you just take the name of it, which is mint info, you put a dot, and then it will usually give you a couple of options of what's within there. And so we are sending right here our reward amount, or the calculate mint reward, all of these different items. So if we come here, let's copy this and look at that one, we can see right here that all the parameters are actually being sent, which comes from our object. Okay. So there's that. That is really exciting just to see they are using their objects, and we love objects. And that cleanup stake and the mint are happening as well. Okay, let's scroll down. So claim, mint, reward, and share. So we have our requires again, and if it doesn't pass these, then we can't get to our code within the specific function. So we can't get to this, but say we pass everything, we come in here, and we have the mint info object again, and we're sending that to the calculate mint reward, which we already saw, but this one's a little bit different than above because we come in here and there's potential to share your reward and then also your own reward, and then it does the mint and cleanup as well. So I do want to read what this says. So it ends rank stake upon maturity and within the permitted withdrawal time window, mints XEN coins and splits them between user and designated other address. Sweet. So like as we're going through this, you can see that what we read in their website right here is happening throughout. So you have to mint them, you have to, get your rank, and so we can see that all there. And then you can claim your mint rewards and stake them. And so this one ends rank stake upon maturity, mints XEN coins, and stakes PCT of it for turn. Okay, we have our requires. If we make it past that, then we get to be all down here. Also, there's more requires, but let's just look until here. Okay, we have our mint info object again, which grabs those different variables within the object, and then it grabs the staked reward, your own reward, cleans it up, and then it goes through requires again, and if it goes through these requires, then it will make it down to this. But let's see, nothing to burn since we haven't minted this part yet. Stake extra tokens part. Cool. Okay, so it creates a stake if it makes it past everything, and so it has to be the opposite of all these. Okay, and we'll keep going. Initiates XEN stake an amount for a term of days. So this is the actual staking function. This is cool. So it has to go through the requires as usual, and then if it makes it past the requires, then it will burn the stake XEN, and then it'll create the XEN stake. And then this stake happens. Okay, so keep scrolling down. We are almost to the end. So ends XEN stake and gets rewards if the stake is mature. Okay, so see this right here, this require checks if it exists. If it exists, then, we have another object. I wonder where this came from. Okay, we haven't seen it yet. Another object has been placed into our site. It's called user stake. And if we can't find it as we're scrolling down, I will find it. But it looks like we have amount, term, maturity, TS, and APY. So that's great. Oh, wait. User stake is right here. Oh, that's neat. Okay, sorry. So what happens here is it just gets instantiated right there. And then we can use it from that, but it calls this to grab that stake. Okay. And then active stakes, it goes minus minus, which is -1. And then total Zen stake, this minus equals the user staked amount. Okay, so that's also the minus. Okay. And then it's mint the staked Zen plus the reward. And look, we can see the mint staked, which is the amount, and then plus the reward. Okay, and then the last function. So burns Zen tokens and creates proof of burn record to be used by connected DeFi services. So we have our burn, we have our requires, and then it comes in and takes the spend allowance, sends in the user message and amount, and then it comes in and burns it, and then, the user burns, and right here it puts it to the amount plus equals the amount of that specific user. Okay, and this is where that interface comes in. As we are wrapping this up, it comes in and we have the I burn redeemable, which puts in the user and the amount. So as we have been going through this, it does match up with what they said. To do this more in depth, you could look at a white paper and, connect the dots through that. But we can just see it as we go through this. And so I'm excited for this project. I hope it launches soon. It's going to be on ETH. And so, yes, let's see. Yep, it's an ERC20 token. And there are a couple of articles of how it can be moved over to Pulse Chain and all of that. But we don't have to deal with that at the moment. And so, yeah. If you have any questions and if you liked this type of video, please put that in the comments below. And I will see everyone later. Bye.